there in an executive role. And you know the critical role played by this assembly, and countries like Rwanda and Uganda bring very good members of parliament. Let me tell you, I've listened to Senator Osotsi and I sympathize with him. He's saying that a parliamentary group meeting that is going to discuss this matter should not be entertained. Poor him. Senator Osotsi, in November 2006, Professor Peter Anyang' and 10 other leaders belonging to the Rainbow Coalition took President Mwai Kibaki to the East African Court of Justice. And the ruling was given in Anyang' favor that no political party within a coalition can be locked out. That was the ruling, November 2006. So, heads of coalitions must sit together and agree so that the members we take to East Africa, Wiper must be there, Jubilee should be there, ODM should be there on that side. And on our side, we should reflect our composition. And this is why I want to urge ODM, if you have not held consultations with your colleagues, you're going to give us problems. We'll be ruled out of order by that court. So we need that tomorrow's example by us be seen as a value adding. The only thing I'll request is, because I'll be voting for you, I'll go by the ruling of the East African Court of Justice. I'll make sure that the people I vote for, I'll give some to ODM, some to Wiper, and some to Jubilee. And on the UDA side, because we have almost 90% majority, the law allows us as UDA to take all the UDA members of parliament, and I'll therefore be guided, and I urge members to be guided by the geographical consideration, so that the entire community of Kenya is also in East Africa. I support.
Thank you, Senator Wambua.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also stand in support of the report, and hasten to say that, Mr. Speaker, there is a lot of consultation going around, which is healthy. I mean, let those people who are interested in representing our republic in IALA lobby and canvass and caucus, and there's no formula for doing it, Mr. Speaker. The people will canvass in the best way that they know how to, and at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, the thing that we must all be very careful about, I think, is what Senator Khalwale has said, that we need to take to Arusha a team of 9 members who will represent 2 things, Mr. Speaker. 1, the face of this country, and 2, Mr. Speaker, the competence levels of representation of this country. And Mr. Speaker, this is not to say that the youth should not get an opportunity. They must get an opportunity. Mr. Speaker, it will be remembered that at some point all of us were first-time senators or members of the National Assembly. So we cannot say that one of the criteria for electing people to IALA should be people who are previously served in a parliament. The Speaker, people are committed enough, they lobby enough, they canvass enough, they caucus enough. The Speaker, let the best team go to represent Kenya in Arusha. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Tobiko.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me arise to thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the report of the committee, that they have done a good job with the names that they have presented to both houses to be considered for the IALA Parliament. Mr. Speaker, let me say, all those who are in that list are Kenyans who can represent this country. But, Mr. Speaker, it's good that as we go to vote, we consider the face of this country, we consider diversity, we consider regional balance, and we also consider competence, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we consider all categories, it's also good that people who are physically challenged are considered because if we have seen them in the list. The youths are considered because we have seen them in the list. And the women of this country, there is a fair number in that list. And as my SG said, it will be good if for the first time we can have majority of women in the RAILA Parliament, because we have seen the women of this country are also competent, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we consider many factors, it is good that we consider that there are communities particularly that cut across the borders of the East African countries. You will find a community like the Maasai. They are both in Tanzania and they are in Kenya. You'll find, I think the Pokot. There are many communities that cut across, and it will be good that such communities are given a chance, because as they go to East Africa, they will bring unity of purpose in all our countries, Mr. Speaker. They are asked
Honorable Senator, your time is up. Senator Ledama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the report on the Joint Committee on the elections of members to serve in the East African Parliament. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind us that this is an extension of this Parliament. The men and women, and I'm happy to see that both coalitions have considered at least 5 women on that side, 5 women on this side. I hope that we can send many women to be able to represent us. I want to support I share the sentiments of my sister that it would be imperative for us to look at communities that share boundaries so that we can be able to enhance cohesion between these two countries. The purpose of the East African Legislation Assembly is to be able to foresee a future development where this country, Mr. Speaker, that's 53 seconds. Doesn't it have a minute, yeah? For the future of the community, so that at least eventually we can have one country which will be called the East African country. And that is going to be able to help us enhance development. Mr. Speaker, some of the things that we'll be talking about in future is an introduction of future parliaments or future committees that will look at the challenges that we go through. So I want to beseech my colleagues that on Thursday, let us look at the list entirely. Let us take into consideration those issues that we've discussed here, and also plead with my colleague that at least every Kenyan has got a right. It doesn't matter. We never chose to be born by rich families or poor families. We are all Kenyans. When we come here, let us respect each other. Let us give each other an opportunity, and God will select the best person to represent us. Finally, remember that whoever we send to the East African legislation will be representing this parliament. It is an extension of this parliament, and that is why it is us, the members of parliament, who are electing our colleagues to go and represent us there. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Robert.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the report of the Joint Committee. And as we've looked at the report, the people selected by the Joint Committee are people representative generally, under the circumstance of the country and the regions. This is an opportunity for us as Parliament to be able to really help in fine-tuning what the committee has done. The committee has done a fantastic job. And in fine-tuning what the committee has done through voting, it is very critical that we don't let down the committee, because the committee has really, there are youth in this proposal. There are, women, there are people with experience, there are people without experience, and they're all there. And with that spirit of the committee, it is an opportunity for us to be able to select. Yes, the proposals has been given by different political coalitions, but as members of parliament here, allow people to lobby, as what we have gone through in terms of, election. But in as far as even considering the lobbying, we should not miss the opportunity to be able to see through and make sure that we maintain the same balance as done. I rise to support. Thank you.
Senator Eddie.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I also rise to support the report, and I am drawn through this report to Article 19 of the Constitution, and I'm going to read sub-Article 1 and 2. Critically, sub-Article 1 says that the Bill of Rights is an integral part of Kenya's democratic state and is the framework for social, economic, and cultural policies. Sub-Article 2 says that the purpose of recognizing and protecting human rights and fundamental freedoms is to preserve the dignity of individuals and communities and to promote social justice and the realization of the potential of all human beings. Mr. Speaker, the day we attempt to suspend these articles, whether by just words or by mere
Senator
political
Wambua, kindly
rhetoric,
consult in Lawton.
the day we attempt to suspend this article, Mr. Speaker, whether by words or political rhetorics, is the day we will condemn all our children to condemnation without relief. I am very disappointed at a senator who has spoken very passionately, profiling sons and daughters of other senior politicians in these countries with regards to this, when we know that when we talk about dynasties today, by virtue that you've gotten an opportunity to be in this house, you are also, you are a politician, and your sons and children will be treated to the same measure that you put. And therefore, I request that as we consider this election coming in on Thursday, please let us consider people on the basis of people who can advance the economic opportunities for our people in the East African market. If you talk about somebody like Winnie Odinga, you might look at the daughter of Raila Odinga, but Winnie Odinga is also a qualified Drexel University double major graduate. So please respect the Constitution. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Anyeni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support the report by the Joint Committee and also urge honorable members in this House that the shortlisted candidates meet the requirements, but we need to shed off the narrative of these slots being a Bureau of Employment. This House is going to be judged by citizens across the East African community countries by the kind of people we are going to send to that House. Secondly, someone like me would never have made it to this Senate hadn't I been given a platform. So I beg to request that members